Hello and welcome to 96 Indie, where the goal is to provide DIY tips for music makers and content creators. I go by the name of Joe R, and today we're here to talk about setting up for voice recordings in Pro Tools using the Audient iD44 and Windows 11. So at this point, I've already configured the Audient iD44 with Windows 11 to make sure that everything is everything. I have another video on this channel that is associated with that process if you want to see how that process goes. Otherwise, we're ready to hop into Pro Tools and start setting up our recording session. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hop into Pro Tools. All right, so now that we have Pro Tools opened up, what we're going to do is create a session from scratch. Now, today what we're looking to do is a voiceover demo, but this setup can be used for podcasting or really anything that you're going to be doing spoken word for. So we're going to call this VO demo. And otherwise, we want the file type to be WAV, we want the bit depth to be 16-bit, and the sample rate to be 44.1 in this case, for me anyway. And this is how I set up my interface to work with Windows 11. So I'm just trying to keep the settings consistent with the settings that I've already selected on my computer. Now, otherwise, you can load up an I/O setting and you're more than likely not going to have something set up for your audio interface already. So if that's the case, then you can just go ahead and use Stereo Mix, which is a generic I/O setting that comes with Pro Tools and should work out fine. So otherwise, I want to make sure that the interleaved checkbox is ticked. And then I want to save my session to a location that I want to save it to, just to keep things organized. So make a folder for the particular session that you're going to start up is what you're looking to do. So I have a folder called generic samples that I'm going to save this to. And you just check your file path and make sure that it's going to your folder. If it's not, then you can click in location and navigate to the folder that you want to use and then select use current folder. But I'm going to go ahead and create this session now. Great. So everything is looking pretty good. The only thing I need to do from this point is just make sure I maximize my windows, make sure my mix window is also maximized, and then I should be good to move to the next steps of the process. So speaking of those next steps of the process, I like to check my Pro Tools settings and make sure I have them set up the way that I want them to be at the beginning of a session. So one of the first things I check is my options, and I go into pre-fader metering to see, if I need to turn that on or off. Right now it's off and I want to turn it on. Basically what this does is it helps me be able to see my input levels going into Pro Tools, no matter what fader level I have set on my actual vocal track. So, if you're kind of like pre-mixing and recording at the same time and you're changing your fader levels, the actual meter that you're monitoring in Pro Tools is not going to feed off of the fader level. So it's literally just going to show your input level coming into Pro Tools, which is good. It helps you make sure that you're not going to clip, and it makes sure that you're setting your levels the way that you want to set your levels, no matter where your vocal track fader is set at. So after I check that, the next thing I'll go into is my playback engine. And here you want to make sure, in this case, that your Audient is selected as the playback engine. And then you want to set your buffer size in Pro Tools to a good recording buffer size. So for me and my system and my computer, I like setting the buffer size for the Audient iD44 to 128 samples. I talked about this a little bit in the previous video too. Basically, when you're recording, you want to set your buffer as low as you can and have the system work reliably. And if you're mixing, then you can set your buffer as high as you can. That way you can put plugins and things of that nature in your session, and your computer has buffer time to kind of process all those processes before playing back. But yep, we're recording today, so 128 I feel like is a low enough buffer size that I can hear myself back as soon as possible, but also have my system run smoothly, and that's what I'm going to choose here. Otherwise, I don't really mess with any of these for the most part. I kind of leave them as is generally. And then the video engine, I'm not going to enable it because I'm not recording video today. I'm just working with video today. I'm just recording my voice. And then my cache size, I typically leave it as normal, and that generally works well for me. So next up in my setup, I/O setup. And over here, basically what we're going to do is just double check and make sure that our IO setup is mapped to our interface accordingly. So pretty much, you know, when you pick that stereo mix IO setup that I showed a little bit earlier, then Pro Tools should map to your Audient iD44 in kind of like the default manner. So that's what we have right here. You know, we have our analog inputs 1 through 2, analog inputs 3 through 4. This is where we actually physically connect our XLR cables to the back of the interface. And it looks like everything is mapped appropriately and everything's moving in kind of this diagonal manner on the grid, and everything's lining up generally how you should see it lining up is what I'm really getting at the end of the day. And when you go into your output tab, it should be a similar deal where everything is moving in this diagonal manner, and you can see that channels are just mapped accordingly. So that looks good as well. And then we're seeing that our monitor path and all of that stuff is set up to be going out of our main for the most part. In this particular case, I probably want analog 1 through 2 to be my monitor path as well here. And then our buses, we just want to make sure that our buses are matching up to the other stuff that we had going on. We have our analog 1 through 2 that I assigned here, basically our main output for Pro Tools. And then we have buses as well, pretty much default buses that are set up when you open up a Pro Tools session. And then we have inserts that are defaulted as well. So I'm just checking all of this stuff. So basically, if all of this stuff looks as what we're seeing right now, then you should be in good shape and everything should be in working order for the IO setup. Next up, we're going to go into session setup. And this is where I kind of just double check that all of my settings are what I wanted them to be when I initially created my Pro Tools session. So I did want my bit depth to be 16-bit. I did want my sample rate to be 44.1. I did want my audio format to be wave, and I did want that to be interleaved. So everything is looking good. And then from there, it looks like all of my setup parameters that I go into in the setup menu are dialed in except for one. And we do need to pretty much create a Pro Tools track that we can use to kind of reference for our disc allocation, which is what we're going to check next. So what I'm going to do is Shift-Control-N to start creating a new track. I want it to be a mono audio track, and I can name it VO. And then what I also want to do is create a master fader, so I can hold Shift-Control and press my down arrow to open up a new lane. And that's going to be a stereo master fader. And I like to call my master fader MF, short for master fader. You don't have to name it that if you don't want to. If you have a different preference, then go for it. You can keep it master, whatever you want to do. Really, you know, naming is all about preference and what makes sense to you. So now I have a voiceover track and I have a master fader track. And now if I go into my setup, my voiceover track and any audio I record to it is going to be allocated to somewhere on my hard drive that I'm saving my audio to. So now that I have that track, I can see that VO pops up here. And basically the VO track should be mapping to where I have my session saved at. So I have my session saved on an external hard drive, Pro Tools files, VO sessions, sample sessions, and then generic samples for today's date. And then VO demo is the name of my Pro Tools session. So this is how you make sure that any audio that you record is going to save to your audio files folder for the Pro Tools session that you created in the location that you saved your Pro Tools session to. So it's important to check this and make sure that for whatever reason, Pro Tools is not trying to map your audio file to a different location. That way you can always kind of come back to your Pro Tools session, check in your audio files folder, and know that your audio files are going to be there. Great. So now that we've checked everything, including our disk allocation, the next thing we're going to want to do is make sure that we have a proper input set up for our voiceover track. And the way things are set up as well with Audient iD44, I am monitoring my voiceover through the ID software. So with that in mind, I'll do things a little bit differently than I would if I was monitoring directly through Pro Tools. So as we can see here, I have my voice running through mic 1 or mic channel 1 on the iD44. So that means I connected my mic to my cable. I connected my cable to channel 1 on the back of the iD44. And again, I'm monitoring this through the ID software. So the same signal that I'm seeing on my level meter there is the same signal that I'm hearing, the same signal that you are hearing on the other end of this video. So with that in mind, I do not need to monitor the actual track in Pro Tools, so I can mute the track in Pro Tools. And then in terms of setting the input that we were talking about, Pro Tools may or may not automatically do this, but in this case, for my VO track, Pro Tools automatically set me up on analog input 1, which is the input that I'm using. So that actually works out perfect in this case for me. And then otherwise, Pro Tools has my main output going out of my analog 1 through 2, which is also ideal. I want, my main output or my output channels 1 through 2 to be what Pro Tools uses to output my signal to the speakers. And then also I'm monitoring, basically I'm using headphones right now when I'm recording. So that goes back to settings that I set up in the ID software on the previous video, just to make sure that I'm hearing what I need to hear in my headphones as well. But all of these settings are set up the way that we need them to be set up, all told. So now really all we need to do at this point is set up the track for record arming. And I mean, I like to do record arming and input monitoring generally when I'm recording. So if we were monitoring through Pro Tools, this would all be relevant, including the input monitor. I just kind of do it, out of habit. But we're not monitoring through Pro Tools like I talked about before. So I'm just doing it out of habit. Doesn't hurt. Really what we need more so than anything in this particular case is to record arm the track. That way we start seeing signal flowing through the channel, as we can see right here. And then we know that we're good to go. We're getting signal through Pro Tools. And we can also kind of check our peak indicator and make sure that I like to have my peak indicator between -12 and -9 on this particular meter over here, so that I am kind of in the middle of the meter, and that's like a good record level for me. That way my level's not too low, my level's not too high, and I'm not risking clipping all the way up here at the top of the meter. So this is all pretty much associated with how you set your gain on your interface on the Audient iD44. So you would turn up your gain knob to try to set this record level and get it hovering around the middle of the meter. And again, I generally like to keep it between -12 and -9 on the peak indicator right here. So the peak indicator is telling me what the loudest point of my signal was since I opened up this track and since I enabled it. So that's a way to monitor what's going on. So you can see that here in Pro Tools, and you can also see it in the ID software as well. So we have a peak indicator here as well. So yeah, I talked about that, setting your level on the previous video as well, but still wanted to give a little bit of a refresher just in case you're only watching this video and trying to set your levels accordingly. But yep, so with that, we have everything set up to record, and pretty much only thing we need to do at this point is go and make it happen. So I can record arm, and then here we have it set for loop playback at the moment. So if you ever want to change that, you can hold your Windows key and click on the play button and, toggle it that way. So I just toggled loop playback off because I don't want to loop right now. I just want to record. And then now at this point, all I need to do is press my play button. I've record enabled Pro Tools as a whole. And then I can just go ahead and click play, and anything that I say through the microphone will get recorded into Pro Tools, and that'll create my recording. So we can go ahead and do that right now. Check, check, mic check, just doing a test recording, just demonstrating the fact that we're recording our voice into Pro Tools and making sure that everything is good, testing things, testing levels, doing a test recording essentially, which is definitely a good thing to do anytime you're going to record. Do your first test recording and then play it back, make sure that you can hear it. Things of that nature is a great practice before you actually start recording whatever content you're looking to record. And this will conclude our test recording. Great, so now we have that test recording, and now we can pretty much just play it back and make sure that we're hearing what we need to hear. So now in this case, when I'm looking to play back, typically what I would do is go into the ID software. I hop into the ID software and I mute my microphone so that I can hear my playback and I'm not hearing like the noise floor of my live microphone at the same time. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to mute it. You guys will not hear my live microphone, but I'll be silent in the meantime anyway, because I'm looking to playback only. And then I'll unmute my microphone and come back and kind of conclude this setup video. Check, check, mic check. Just doing a test recording, just demonstrating the fact that we're recording our voice into Pro Tools, and this will conclude our test recording. Great. So that in a nutshell is how we set up for recording voice and how we, do test recordings, how we check our settings, pretty much that whole process. Now, as you can see, once I hopped out of here after I muted myself and I hopped into Pro Tools, I unrecord armed the track, I uninput monitored the track, and then I unmuted it as well. So you need to do all of these things so that you can hear what you recorded back appropriately in Pro Tools. And once again, like I said, that pretty much concludes the process, just keeping it super simple with this setup. And that's how you get your voice recorded in Pro Tools and test it out and play it back using the Audient iD44. And again, this is when you're monitoring through the ID software, which is the way I prefer to do things without question. So yep, I hope that helps to improve your workflow as usual. And as usual, this is not the only way to do things. This is the way I do things. Once again, I'm Joe R, and this is 96 Indie, and I will catch you guys on the next video.